everyone, let's talk about this. This is the Boss DS-1 Distortion Pedal. Gear snobs hate this pedal. They hate it because it's embarrassing to them. And in fact, this whole video is going to be a bit of a snob test, so let's dive in. You see, the thing is, if this pedal was priced at about $500, there'd be no controversy. It wouldn't be controversial, because everybody would just agree that it's a pretty solid piece of equipment and move on. However, the problem is, it's cheap. Traditionally, it's been the cheapest pedal in Boss's entire catalog, roughly half the price of their other distortion pedals. So surely something cheap can't be good, right? Surely the pros would never use this. Well, 2 weeks ago when I put out a video about the Boss Katana, you would not believe how many people commented and basically made that argument. Surely it's something so cheap that no pro would use it, right? It can't be good. Well, let's get into it. This thing came out in 1978. It was Boss's first compact pedal ever. And, coincidentally, it's also been their biggest hit ever, with 1.5 million units sold. Now, the thing is, it's also been quite cheap. Traditionally, about half the price of any other Boss pedal. Roughly, that was about $50 US traditionally, although that has gone up in recent times. So the thing is, a lot of people like this. This is very, very popular, and people are buying this thing even when they could be buying Klons, JCM 800s, or any other number of boutique pedals or any other options. This thing still sells. In fact, it's known as a career pedal, meaning that people buy it when they're novices. They then trade it because it doesn't really work for them, but then they end up rebuying it later on once they know a thing or two about guitar tone. We're going to get into that. In fact, this pedal is almost like the pedal version of an SM57. This is an SM57, unchanged for about 60 years, way less money than you would ever think you need to drop for a pro mic, but beloved the world over. In fact, I think you can say that this mic is the most recorded microphone on the planet. It's certainly one of the most popular. But people still go to this, even when you could buy Neumanns, even when you have access to high-end condensers, they still go to this. So surely, cheap can't be good, right? See, here's what a lot of people don't know about the Boss DS-1. It was never meant to be your final guitar sound. This was designed to process your guitar signal on the way into the amp, and the assumption was that the amp would be the thing coloring your sound and giving it its final character. It was simply a processor. It was not meant to be used on an extremely clean amp in a bedroom, giving you the final guitar sound coming out of here. That was never its function. It's extremely good at what it does, but not necessarily good at the way a lot of people are using it, especially amateurs. This thing puts out a very particular type of distortion. It provides you a symmetrical clipping sound, which is very harsh, and it's ugly. It provides a lot of pick sound and not a great amount of what people would colloquially call sustain, which means that you don't get a lot of long ringing notes with this necessarily, but you do get a very distinct pick sound. It doesn't smooth over the imperfections. It's very unforgiving. What you see is what you get with your distortion. And that's one of the reasons some people don't like it. So this thing ends up providing a very unforgiving distortion sound. It can be harsh. It has warts and all. It lets through all your mistakes, and it's meant to be warmed up and smoothed over by an amp afterwards. And if you use it like that, it can sound amazing. But the uncomfortable truth is that it's not the cheapness factor. This thing has been on the market for a very long time, and in the last 15 years, we've seen a glut of cheap products flooding the market that are copies of this. But the uncomfortable truth is that people are still buying this. They're still reaching for this and buying these instead of the clones. So it's not simply the cheap factor. There are a lot of cheaper things on the market now, and people are still choosing to buy this instead. Okay, now, I've taken some flack in the comments recently because I wasn't putting sound samples in some of my videos, setting aside the fact that I've recorded a lot of videos where I'm just playing, but nobody watches those. So I'm going to do you guys one better. In 2022, I recorded an album. It was just a non-serious album, but every song on it had a different distortion sound. The entire signal chain was exactly the same, except that the pedal that made the distortion sound, or the source of the distortion, was different. So I'm going to put a link to that. You guys tell me if you think the DS-1 distortion sound is superior to the sound from all these pedals, and other sources too that I used. Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. You guys are awesome. I'll see you on the next video. Take care.